Sakuta is a social outcast who everyone avoids. However, his life takes a wild turn when he meets an invisible baddie that only he can see. Now, he'll do whatever it takes to solve her bizarre condition, but will end up making her fall deeply in love with him. One day, Sakuta woke up in the morning, trying to remember a dream of a cute girl who had tried to lock lips with him. Once he got up, Bro found his journal where he apparently wrote about a bunny he randomly met. The journal reveals that months earlier, he was just sitting in the library when a bunny girl cosplayer casually walked by. Of course, he was shaken and was wondering why some rando was walking through the library cosplaying like a Playboy girl, but didn't seem to creep anyone out. However, he seemed to clock that no one could see her aside from him. Just then, the mysterious bunny girl came over to Sakuta, and when they locked eyes, she was a bit surprised to see that he could see her. She was about to disappear back into the shadows till Sakuta called her back, referring to her as Sakurajima-senpai. She took this as a sign that he went to the same school as her, which he confirmed. She introduced herself as Mai, but it wasn't really necessary since she was low-key famous. Mai gave Sakuta a warning and told him to forget everything he saw and back off. But he just stared at her as he'd never seen a cute bunny girl before. The next day on the train, Sakuta asked his friend Kunimi if he had a bunny girl kink, and he asked who didn't. Then Sakuta asked what he would do if he randomly ran into a bunny girl, and he said she'd be his irreplaceable goon material. Walking into school, they both spotted Mai without her revealing cosplay this time, and talked about what they thought about her. Turns out she was a pretty popular actress and was going to their school. Kunimi was happy that his friend was showing interest in another chick outside his main crush, Shoko, but Sakuta was an NPC, and Mai would never date a side character. However, Sakuta wasn't even planning on all that and was just curious why she was always alone. Just then, another cutie called Kamisato showed up and snuggled up to Kunimi, making sure to drag him away from Sakuta. In class, Sakuta kept thinking about Mai. Although she was super popular, she was pretty much going through school in single-player mode. After school, Sakuta was taking a stroll to the train station when he ran into Mai and some groupies acting like she was the best thing since sliced bread. Fortunately, Sakuta stepped in and prevented them from taking any fan service photos. Surprisingly, Mai thanked him for his help, and they talked a bit about how celebrity life was wearing on her. On the train, Sakuta brought up the day before, telling her she was too hot for him to forget so easily, but she was too worried he had taken care of business while thinking about her. Suddenly, she brought up how she had seen the rumors about how Bro had sent 3 of his classmates back to the hospital in a fight. However, he didn't even know he was famous, since he threw his phone into the ocean months ago. When she asked about the rumors, he said he simply went along with the flow. After an awkward silence, he asked why she was cosplaying as a Playboy girl, and she explained to him that she does it to confirm who can see her, since she is becoming invisible to most people. She noticed this when she went to an aquarium. Then, at some point, she tried a cafe, but she still wasn't noticed. After some experiments, she realized that people could see her in some places, so she decided to wear the costume in various locations to see if people would notice her. She was about to continue her experiment, but when she tried ordering a cream bun, the babe couldn't see her, so Sakuta ordered for her instead. When he asked if she was annoyed, she said didn't care. She then asked if he believed her story, and Sakuta immediately labeled it puberty syndrome with a straight face. He explained that supernatural stuffs like hearing people's thoughts or swapping bodies were all termed puberty syndrome by Reddit bots, but she simply said those were baseless rumors unlike hers. Soon they both came to a stop in front of Sakuta's apartment building, and when she asked why they were there, he invited her upstairs to convince her about his puberty syndrome tale. He also promised not to pull any degenerate moves, and she agreed. Once in his room, which was strangely neat for a gooner, he suddenly started stripping. Mai was pretty freaked out at first, but the moment she saw his manly battle scars, she fell into a trance. After getting his scars played with, Sakuta showed Mai a picture of his sister looking all beat up and said it was all due to cyberbullying by a popular classmate. One day, she got home all depressed and just started getting cuts all over like she had beef with Sukuna. That was the same way he got his scar on a random day, and after witnessing 2 incidents personally, he actually believed puberty syndrome was real. Just then, Kaede, his sister, interrupted his delusional yapping, but freaked out over his scar exhibition. When Mai noticed she didn't recognize her, Sakuta revealed that his sister avoided television and the internet because of her puberty syndrome, which was also why he tossed his phone as a donation to Aquaman. To solve her problem, he suggested she goes back to showbiz, since no one would be able to ignore her if they keep seeing her on screen. When he added that she also looked like she wanted to go back, she got angry he was poking his nose in her business and bolted, leaving her bunny costume with a confused Sakuta. After that, Mai completely dropped out of school, and even when Bro went pro Instagram detective to track her, he couldn't find anything about her. A few days later, Kunimi and Sakuta were at their part-time job, talking about Mai when the boss called Sakuta to attend to a customer. Sakuta tried to get her to order, but she gave him her card and was more interested in getting his rice cakes than in ordering rice cakes. She was a journalist who was interested in the hospitalization rumor, and even offered to give him some incentive if he let her take photos of his scars for fan service. He then asked her if she knew anything about Mai's disappearance, so she smiled and said they could trade info. The next day at school, Sakuta was talking to his friend Futaba, who noticed his sudden interest in Mai. Sakuta brushed it aside and asked if she believed people could become invisible, though she got the wrong idea and thought he was trying to sneak into the girl's bathroom. She told him she didn't believe in puberty syndrome, but he said he wasn't asking about what ifs, and now wanted a logical explanation from her point of view. That was when she told him about the observation theory, explaining how things didn't exist unless they were observed. Later, as Sakuta headed home, he was wondering if the people who couldn't see her still remembered she was a celebrity. When he mentioned Mai's name to the same cashier who ignored her earlier, she said he had no idea who she was. This discovery made him consider the observation theory even more. And that's when he realized that if no one watched Mai, her condition could get even worse. This made him panic, and he started sprinting home, only to find Mai sitting outside his door like a lost puppy. Apparently, fewer and fewer people could see her, so Sakuta decided to offer her his help. To begin, he decided to write in his journal to his future self about how he met a bunny girl in the wild. Days later, Sakuta was brainstorming with Futaba, who explained her observation theory by giving him a rundown of Schrödinger's cat experiment. It involved putting a cat with dangerous materials in a box for some time and hoping for the best. In the end, you can only know if the cat survived by opening the box to observe it, and the same worked for humans who didn't exist until they were observed. Later, Sakuta and Mai were shopping together like an old married couple, even though no one could see his fake wife. Apparently, anything she held also disappeared, and Sakuta suggested they test out what would happen if Mai touched him. However, she wasn't really interested in holding hands until she found out he was a hand-holding virgin, so she volunteered to pop his cherry. When she held him, it was obvious he was having degenerate thoughts, so she backed away instantly. However, she ended up teasing him more by holding him again, but still, he was visible to everyone. After shopping, Sakuta wanted to come over for Netflix and chill, but Mai wasn't ready for that just yet. She said she lived alone, even adding that she was still a bit mad about him telling her to go back to acting. Sakuta then confronted her about her manager, who was her mom, and how she'd been pimping her out for fan service. He revealed that not posing in a swimsuit like her mom wanted made them fight and was the reason she actually went on hiatus. He also called her a coward for her actions, adding that she would be missing out on her dreams for no reason. This immediately struck a nerve, so Mai hit him and angrily revealed how she was still young when it happened. This just made the whole thing even weirder, as it was obvious that her mom just wanted to make a quick buck. However, Sakuta still suggested she return to showbiz to clear the bad taste in her mouth. Hearing his words, Mai demanded to know who snitched on her, so he admitted that it was a sus news anchor named Fumika. When he mentioned that he had let her take pictures of his scars in exchange for the info, Mai got pissed. She pointed out that he could become a victim of the press, and worst of all, they could begin hounding his sister. Since Sakuta hadn't thought of that before, Mai requested the woman's number and called her to negotiate a deal. She promised to give Fumika exclusive coverage of her comeback as long as she didn't use Sakuta's photos, and the woman happily agreed. Later, as they continued walking, Sakuta apologized for forcing her to return to showbiz, but Mai admitted she had already decided to return. She had come looking for him so she could tell him, but then things happened the way they did. Sakuta was surprised by her admission, and even more so when he discovered that they lived across the street from each other. Before parting ways with him, Mai apologized for slapping him earlier and then reminded him of their date that Sunday. Later that night, while Sakuta was in the bath, he thought about how admirable it was that Mai decided to move forward. Soon his thoughts shifted to the fact that he was going to go on a date with a baddie, so he let out a celebratory yelp. This caused his sister to rush in, but he assured her he was fine and told her to get out. Sunday soon came, so Sakuta carefully picked out a goated fit. On his way, he spotted a lost girl crying and tried to help her, but a random girl suddenly kicked him to the ground and accused him of being a lolicon degenerate. To avoid jail time, Sakuta quickly explained what happened, and the girl apologized, asking him to kick her too so they could be even. Sakuta obviously didn't want to, but the violent girl was insistent, so he caved. However, the moment his kick landed, cop pulled up and took them to the station for disturbing public peace. Fortunately, things got sorted out, and after they were released, Sakuta rushed to the train station because he was late. Upon getting there, he found Mai waiting for him, but she was visibly angry that he was late. He assumed she was supposed to be a charming kitten, so he accused her of being an imposter, but Mai just called him an idiot. Later on the train, Sakuta explained why he was late, and Mai promised to shove Pocky up his nose if he was lying. She suddenly asked why he cared about a girl like her, and Sakuta replied that he just wanted older girl peaches. He eventually admitted that it was because he knew what it felt like to have no one to lean on. That had been his situation when Kaede developed puberty syndrome, and even their parents bailed on them because their mother had refused to wake up to reality like Madara advised. Nevertheless, someone still helped him out, and he wanted to do the same for her. From his expression, Mai deduced his helper was a girl, so when the train pulled into the station, she angrily got off, claiming it was too late to go anywhere again. Sakuta quickly went after her and ended up telling her the story of how he met his helper, Shoko, at the beach. Despite her being 2 years older, they had hit it off quite well, and because of that, he chose to enroll at Minagahara High since that was the name on her uniform. Sadly, he discovered that there wasn't a student named Shoko at the school and began wondering whether he'd conjured her up. Curious, Mai asked whether he still liked Shoko, and he admitted that those feelings had faded. Just then, Mai's mom showed up, and as she approached them, Mai told him she'd speak to the woman and inform her of her return to showbiz under another company, which made Sakuta even more worried. However, when Mai approached her mother, the woman walked past her, and this was shocking because she couldn't see her. She walked up to Sakuta and wanted to know if he was the one who called her out there, so he played along saying he was her daughter's junior. Surprisingly, the woman couldn't remember she had a daughter, and even the name in the text had been completely blacked out. Sakuta started crashing out, believing the woman was just trying to play dumb. He wanted to give the hag a piece of his mind, but Mai told him to stop, while the woman eventually walked away assuming it was a prank. Later that day, Sakuta went around with Mai asking if anyone remembered her, but just like her mother, they didn't. When the journalist she just made a deal with claimed not to remember her as well, Mai gave up and tried to leave, but Sakuta stopped her, saying there had to be at least one person who remembered her. Mai didn't think so, but Sakuta was determined, and he promised to stay by her side the whole time, so she changed her mind. He then called home and told Kaede that he wouldn't be home that night. After that, he and Mai boarded a train heading to another town, and during the ride, Mai suddenly asked Sakuta if he could still see and remember her. He listed everything he knew about her and comforted her, saying he understood she was low-key, worried about vanishing into thin air. Later, when they arrived, it was cramped, and Mai was extremely concerned that Sakuta would have a solo sword fight while she was in the shower. But he proved her wrong and called Kunimi to ask if he remembered Mai. Surprisingly, he did, and that gave Sakuta so much hope, so he asked for Futaba's number and called her. She was happy, but after Sakuta explained the situation, she agreed to help him out and told him to meet her at school the next day. Later on, as Sakuta and Mai shared the cramped bed, they discussed Sakuta's older girl kink, and he even called Mai hot. Suddenly, she asked if he'd like to kiss her, but the idiot asked if she was down bad or just touch-starved.
It should have been me, not him! It's not fair!
This annoyed her, so she called him a dumbass and said goodnight. However, before falling asleep, she asked what he would do if she started crashing out about being Thanos snapped out of existence. He tried comforting her by saying he would hug her from behind, but she saw through his plans to touch her melons and shot it down. She then teased him, saying he'd just missed his only chance to take her first kiss, but suddenly thanked him for not giving up on her. The following morning, Mai woke up to find Sakuta staring at her like a dedicated stalker. However, he claimed it was because lying next to a baddie was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Mai brushed off his degeneracy and told him to make himself scarce so she could get dressed. While he waited outside, he realized he was still the only one who could see Mai. Later at school, after Futaba confirmed that most of the school had forgotten about Mai, Sakuta suddenly ran into the girl who'd kicked him at the park. He tried asking her if she remembered Mai, but her fridge friend was more concerned about the violent virgin talking to them. In the end, they just shrugged him off and began walking away, which pissed him off, so he yelled and asked how they could even forget a hot actress like Mai. Later that day, Futaba suggested that maybe the only reason both of them had not forgotten Mai was that they were chronic insomniacs. She likened the situation to the Schrödinger effect, in which something exists in multiple states until it is observed. In Mai's case, it seemed that almost everyone at school ignored her into oblivion without even thinking about it. She then theorized that the school was Mai's Schrödinger's box, and since she wasn't being observed, people forgot about her whenever they slept. In the evening, while Mai urged Sakuta not to skip work for rice cakes, Sakuta was busy thinking about his conversation with Futaba at school. If Futaba was correct, then only the students should have forgotten about Mai, but that wasn't the case, so he was even more worried. He then decided not to go to work. Mai insisted that he had to make money to handle his responsibilities, so he left. However, the thought that he might forget Mai if he slept lingered with him, so that night after work he downed energy drinks like a crackhead. He then popped a few Rockstar candies and decided to jot down everything that had happened with Mai so far for his future self to find. The next morning, when Mai met Sakuta outside his house, he looked like the Walking Dead, but she didn't say anything. As they walked to school, they talked about the upcoming midterms and also wondered how Mai would take hers, given her current see-through situation. Days later, the midterms kicked off and Sakuta was straight up tweaking because he hadn't slept. During break, he ran into Futaba, but discovered that she had finally forgotten who Mai was. So that night, Sakuta downed more energy drinks like a junkie and stayed up researching ways to help Mai. This left him looking like a soulless shell, and he could barely even stand up straight on the train. Even at school, he could barely stay awake without poking himself, but that didn't stop him from buying more energy drinks at the store later. When Mai saw him, she immediately realized that he hadn't been sleeping, so she took him home. However, she didn't try to convince him to sleep. Instead, she offered to tutor him. She even promised to give him a special reward if he got a perfect score, and he immediately started thinking PG-13. But then he cautioned himself and just asked for a replay of their previous date, and Mai agreed. She then began tutoring him, and sometime later, Sakuta started feeling sleepy. It turned out that Mai had put sleeping pills in his drink, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't stay awake. As he drifted off, Mai comforted him despite knowing that he'd forget her once he woke up. The next day, when Kaede woke Sakuta up for his last day of midterms, Mai's bunny outfit fell, and Bro assumed it belonged to Kaede. He got up to get ready, but found his journal instead and started reading it. Surprisingly, Mai's name wasn't in the journal, almost as if the plot gods had completely erased her from existence. So Sakuta had no clue what he was even reading. Later on the train, he met Kunimi, who pointed out that Sakuta looked much better. As they chatted some more, Sakuta felt some strange aura around him, but couldn't figure it out. When he arrived at school, Futaba handed Sakuta a strange letter she had found in her textbook, instructing him to give it to him. The letter had weird instructions about some love conquers all thing, but it went over Sakuta's head, and he went to class for his test. During the test, Sakuta saw the topic Mai had taught him the previous day, and his last two brain cells finally clicked together. Memories of Mai flooded his mind, so he broke down in tears and stormed out of class like a man with a plan. He didn't stop until he reached a clearing beside the school, then he started yelling. He proclaimed his love for Mai and remained outside for a little bit after that, but nothing happened. This embarrassed him, but he kept proclaiming his love for Mai until everyone came out to find out what was going on. Mai also showed up, and she told him he was an idiot for doing something like that. She also pointed out that this would only make people spread rumors about him and his virgin tendencies again. However, he didn't care and shrugged it off, saying it was better than pretending he was smart. At this, Mai ran up to him and slapped him, because she was mad he had forgotten about her in the first place. He apologized and told her he would never leave her until she forgave him. So she vowed never to forgive him, so he would never leave. She then made Sakuta proclaim his love one more time, and told him she would give him an answer in a month, since they were all getting a bit carried away. Sakuta was pretty impatient and said he would say it every day, and Mai made him promise to keep his word. Meanwhile, everyone in school was still watching the crazy scenario unfold like an episode of a rom-com. So Mai told everyone how the rumors about Sakuta were just fake, but at least she wasn't see-through anymore. The duo accepted their fate that they were definitely going to get in trouble, but they didn't mind that much. And that was how, through some love conquers all logic, Mai stopped being invisible. Weeks later, as Sakuta was on his way out, he noticed Kaede was watching the news about Japan winning a football match. At school, he met up with his only other two friends, and they also kept talking about the football match Japan had won. Later, Mai met Sakuta with the lunch she had prepared for him, and, like clockwork, he told her he was crazy for her, but apparently hearing it every day for a month had made it sound boring. Fortunately, something exciting had happened. She was to appear in an episode of a show. Sakuta wasn't too excited about it because she had a kissing scene, so he asked her to turn down the role. Mai refused, saying she had already given up her first kiss to him while she was invisible, but of course he couldn't remember. She then suggested they do it again, so he got geeked and puckered up, only to meet some food on his lips instead of a cute girl. She then fessed up that she wasn't even the one doing the kissing in the kiss scene. After some cute back and forth about whether she actually liked him, Mai finally agreed to go out with Sakuta, and bro finally got an actress to add to his roster. The next morning, Sakuta could barely contain himself when he noticed the same news report from yesterday, but Kaede swore this was her first time seeing it. At school, Sakuta acted weird when he started repeating the previous day's conversation with his friends, but Kunimi didn't think they had had the conversation before. Throughout the day, more and more weird stuff kept happening, and it was like the last day was replaying like an old iPod. He quickly realized his save file with Mai had probably been erased, and that he wasn't dating her anymore. So he met up with Mai, and already having a guaranteed playbook, got her to start going out with him again. A little bit later, Sakuta noticed some guy trying to get his crush to go out with her by the stairs, but he shrugged it off and just needed tomorrow to come so his save file could actually save this time. However, when morning came, things were still repeating themselves, so he decided to involve Futaba. The girl didn't buy the stuck-in-a-time loop story and thought bro was just tweaking. She even told him about a theory stating that through some complex calculations, a person could pull a Doctor Strange and predict the future. But predicting time like that would take a long time to even work. This was when a physicist named Laplace invented a fictional demon that knew all the information needed to perform those calculations instantly. Futaba suggested that Sakuta should find the demon, since he would be the only one aware of the glitch in the Matrix. Sakuta started feeling like he had hit a dead end, since he was supposed to find someone who acted differently from previous loops among the billions of people around the world. Like a gift from the gods, Sakuta stumbled upon a girl called Tomoe, who he figured was the demon, and she happened to be the girl who kicked him in the rice cakes. He asked her if she had gone through the day 3 times as he had, and she confirmed it, but she didn't know why. He tried to get answers from her, but she would rather act like an iPad kid and text rather than have a conversation. After some back and forth, he asked whether something bad had happened recently that might be causing the glitch in the Matrix. While they were talking, someone approached the classroom, and she forced Sakuta to hide just as a dude who looked like an off-brand Ichigo came in. Turns out the weird-looking guy was looking for Tomo because he had a thing for smaller girls. Sakuta tried telling her to show him the door, but she said she would become a class outcast if she did. While she was crashing out, they knocked down their hiding place and fell over, making it look like Sakuta was more interested in checking out her plot than helping her out. And as if things were not bad enough, Mai walked in on them and was even going to give Sakuta a chance to explain himself. The next day, rather than loop, Sakuta found himself actually in the next day. He started freaking out and called Futaba as usual to fix it, but she wasn't having it and hung up on him. Sakuta decided that if he couldn't go back in time, he might as well apologize and hope for the best, but unfortunately, she had bunked classes that day. Again, Sakuta went to Futaba since he had no one else left, and explained the situation. Futaba had classic girl problems with the fact that her only other friend had a girlfriend, and talking to Sakuta made her skin crawl. So he suggested that she tell how she felt and get rejected before it got worse. After laying out all their options, Sakuta realized that the universe would rather pick any other future than let him go out with Mai. Later that day, at his part-time job, Tomoe showed up as a new employee, but Sakuta was already aware thanks to Kunimi. As he went about his job, some girls began asking whether he had the hots for Tomoe, and he didn't believe them when he said he didn't. After work, Tomoe asked Sakuta to pretend to be her boyfriend until the end of the term, but he refused because he didn't want anything to compromise his chances with Mai. As they walked home together, Tomoe still tried to convince Sakuta to change his mind by telling him a sob story about how she was scared of becoming the class outcast, forgetting that Sakuta had been labeled the violent virgin for months. Surprisingly, Sakuta was moved by her story and decided to help her. Tomoe then asked him to go on a date with her the next day after work, so she could take photos and show them to her friends. Later that night, while Sakuta soaked in the bath, he thought about how to patch things up with Mai. He considered groveling, but then his thoughts drifted into degenerate waters, so he quickly stopped. After his bath, Mai suddenly showed up, demanding an explanation for the day before. Sakuta did his best to explain what happened, and even told her about the fake dating thing. Mai didn't believe bro would just agree to a fake date with someone, so she intimidated him into admitting that he agreed to fake date Tomoe because he saw his little sister in her. Hearing this, Mai gave her blessing to the fake relationship but said he had better show her some sincerity in return and figure out how to apologize properly. Sakuta then tried to pounce on her like a hungry tiger, but she kicked him in the face, not knowing he was into that. He asked her out, but she said she would be too busy for dates, and instead gave him some clothes as a gift for his sister. Sakuta went to fetch his sister, but she was already eavesdropping, so he dragged her inside and convinced her to try on the clothes. Kaede looked absolutely stunning in the clothes, so she and Mai shared a heartfelt moment and then got on a first-name basis. Later, Sakuta thanked Mai for helping him with his sister, but she was more concerned about his fake relationship and gave him a fair warning to keep his sausage sword holstered. The next day at work, Sakuta asked Kunimi for the rundown on an annoying dude Maezawa, who tried getting with Tomoe, and Kunimi happily spilt the tea. Apparently, the degenerate even had a girlfriend who wasn't giving up her secret sauce, so he was planning to break up with her. Plus, he kept trying to get with his exes, like a zit that wouldn't go away. After work, Tomoe met up with Sakuta at the train station, and he couldn't stop staring at her legs. Eventually, he snapped out of it, and they boarded the train to their destination. During the train ride, Tomoe told Sakuta that she had wasted her night using her free Wi-Fi and was now super tired. This led to a conversation about how Tomoe had a serious addiction to the internet, and they didn't stop until they got off the train. They then went to an aquarium because Tomoe thought it was the ideal date spot. And of course, she took pictures of everything. After enjoying the penguin show, the two stood outside at a pier near the beach, and Tomoe showed Sakuta some of her old photos and told him how she ended up becoming a social sheep. As it turned out, she used to be a plain background character until her dad got transferred, and they had to move to Tokyo. The fact that she was in a completely new city gave her the bright idea to become a slightly prettier background character, and she even practiced how to talk so she could seem more likable. As he listened to her, Sakuta saw through her "this isn't the real me" act and told her not to worry her pretty head about it. He believed that since she had already made the effort to change who she was, that version of her was already gone. After some self-reflection, they were about to hit the next stop when they ran into one of Tomoe's classmates. She was just a nerdy NPC though, and had lost her phone strap. Out of the kindness of their hearts, the fake couple decided to do some community service and help her find it. The next day, Tomoe came down with a cold after falling into the ocean the day before. When Sakuta came over, he tried to comfort her and even got her some canned tangerines. As they talked, Tomoe suddenly got serious and asked him why he even agreed to her make-believe boyfriend thing. Sakuta answered that he simply wanted to help the needy and, like a wannabe Rizzler, added that he didn't want to see a cute girl be sad. The conversation then continued to flow and eventually shifted to Sakuta's status as the school's public enemy #1 and to how Tomoe had pick-me-girl tendencies. Later, before work, Tomoe met up with Sakuta and thanked him for helping her with the canned peaches, but he was more interested in her peaches. When they got to work later, Sakuta and Tomoe talked about where he stood with Mai, and he admitted that the odds weren't in his favor. The loop thing had messed things up, so he was low-key back to square one. That night, Mai called Sakuta like a lonely housewife looking for love, and he teased her as usual with her degenerate attitude. Mai started acting like a clingy girlfriend, wanting him to come all the way to her area just to see her. The next day, Kunimi startled Futaba while searching for Sakuta, who he thought was probably playing adult patty cake with the first-year girl. However, Sakuta suddenly appeared and immediately got the wrong idea when he saw Futaba and Kunimi together. Futaba became embarrassed, but the dumb Kunimi was pretty much oblivious to everything. Sakuta just wanted to fill Futaba in on his looping, and they both concluded Tomoe was probably the cause. As he left, Sakuta ran into Kumisato again. They both went to the school rooftop, and just like before, she told him she didn't want to see his grubby mitts anywhere near her man Kunimi, then stormed off after Sakuta snapped back at her. That night at work, Sakuta gave Kunimi the me or her treatment, and Kunimi chose bros over rice cakes. He then changed the subject and told Sakuta that there were rumors that his make-believe girlfriend was one size fits all. But once Sakuta heard that the rumors had come from the basketball team, he deduced that something was up. Later, when Sakuta got home, he saw that he had a voice message from Mai, but decided not to call her. The next day, Tomo walked alone to the train station, looking like a sad, lost puppy, but ran into her degenerate senpai, Sakuta. Just then, the off-brand Ichigo Maezawa showed up to act like a discount bully from a 90s movie. He started making degenerate comments about Tomo's plot and punched Sakuta across the face like it was Mortal Kombat. Sakuta got up and decided to play dirty like a true rascal, so he hit him with a quick kick to the shins, followed by a boot to the face. He then called Maezawa uncool, but Tomo pulled him back before he dropped a fatality. Still, bro wasn't finished and yelled that he was a degenerate virgin. Eventually, the duo ran to a nearby beach and had a heartfelt conversation about how Sakuta might be playing his role a bit too well. However, it was good because the girls at school were starting to see how much of a loser off-brand Ichigo really was. As they chatted some more, Tomo suddenly got up and told Sakuta that she was, in fact, also a degenerate virgin, and had never even had a boyfriend before. Like a true gentleman, he accepted her, and the situation turned pretty wholesome, though. Tomo then promised to remain Sakuta's best friend, even after the fake relationship ended. Days later, while Sakuta was about to board the train, he suddenly ran into Maezawa, but surprisingly Maezawa acted like he didn't know Sakuta and also boarded the train. When Sakuta arrived at school later, Tomo and her friend spotted him and began acting like little girls at a Justin Bieber concert, but he just shrugged it off. Despite this, during class, he started to worry that Tomo's feelings were becoming a bit too real for comfort, and that no one would believe they had actually broken up during the holidays. After school, Mai came over to his place to study, but bro was more interested in studying something deeper. Mai tried to get him to focus, saying that if he failed, he'd end up a bum, and when that didn't work, she told him that if he studied hard, they could attend the same college. Still, all her efforts seemed to be in vain, so Mai put on her hot bunny outfit, and Sakuta became gassed. However, he grew suspicious and asked Mai why she was being so nice. It turned out it was all a ploy because after Sakuta fought for Tomoe, Mai grew afraid that she was on course to steal her only boy toy. She also believed that Sakuta was a willing victim, so she scolded him for trying to cheat. The next day, after getting cooked by their exams, Tomoe met up with Sakuta, and they went swimsuit shopping for Tomoe since she planned to go to the beach with her friends. As Tomoe tried to pick a bikini, Sakuta told her that her lowly body wouldn't fit into it, but she ignored him and asked if he had ever gone to the beach with Mai. He answered that he wouldn't, and the delusional girl more or less jumped for joy. Later, while they were enjoying some drinks, Sakuta suggested they start getting the breakup story straight before anything else. According to Tomoe, he was the one getting dumped after she found out he'd always had the hots for Mai. The next day, Sakuta was woken up by his cute younger sister, and as he ate breakfast, he realized summer break was about to start. On the train, Kunimi and Sakuta talked about their plans for summer break, and both had different ideas of how to spend it. Later that day, Sakuta thought about how the lie he and Tomo cooked up would finally crumble today. They both arrived at the train station, and Tomo was already prepared for the date ahead, with her swimsuit under her clothes. They finally hit the beach for one last date, where Sakuta finally saw her melons and rice cakes in a modest swimsuit. Sakuta wanted them to get straight to business, but Tomo was busy fishing for compliments. They both enjoyed some grilled corn together before going out to have some romantic couple fun in the water. Later, they had a sandcastle competition, which Sakuta lost, and then got shaved ice. In the evening, they both sat down on the beach to enjoy the sunset when Tomoe thanked Sakuta for everything. They shook hands, and just like that, their make-believe relationship crumbled like Sakuta's sandcastle, and they both went their separate ways. The next day, Sakuta was in for a rude awakening when his little sister woke him up, and apparently the day had looped. He couldn't believe it and checked his clock, but it didn't change anything since the day had looped. Sakuta then went over to Tomoe's class to confront her, but apparently this time it wasn't her doing, and she didn't loop back with him. As usual, he went to Futaba, but sis straight up said it was definitely Tomoe, although she was definitely lying. The day kept playing out exactly as it had before, and they ended up at the beach for a date. They ate grilled corn, played in the water, and made sandcastles. And just like clockwork, Tomo thanked him for being the Ronaldo of boyfriends. Then it happened again, exactly like the previous loop. Same activities, same ending, but then it happened again. And by then, Sakuta was just pissed. This time though, while they were on the train, Sakuta asked Kunimi what he would do if he had a girl who liked him outside his girlfriend, but he couldn't even answer properly. During the assembly, Sakuta caught Tomo looking at him and confirmed she was lying through her teeth. So this time, instead of going to the beach, they both went to Enoshima for some sightseeing. They wandered around for a while till they got to matching tablets and wrote their names in them, which Tomo was super against, and Sakuta ended up taking the tablet home. The duo went to a viewpoint overlooking the ocean, and Sakuta decided to burst Tomo's bubble, telling her that no matter how many times she did this, he still wouldn't lose his feelings for Mai. Tomo started talking about how her feelings grew stronger with each loop, and even though she tried to hide them, it didn't work. Then she continued saying she had a fun last date with him, and after that he would just go back to being with Mai, and they would even end up pretty good friends while laughing about times like this. Genuinely, that was all she wanted, but even after all that, with each loop, she got more addicted to Sakuta. She started having a meltdown about her emotions, but still kept lying to herself about how she felt about Sakuta. After all that, she ended up confessing her feelings, forgetting that they were both getting soaked under the rain, and then she started bawling her eyes out. Suddenly, it was almost a whole month in the past, and even Sakuta was a bit confused about how the whole thing got this far. Later that day, Sakuta and Mai met up at school and shared lunch, and Bro tried to shoot his shot once again. Just like Prime LeBron, he bagged Mai as his girlfriend and got a kiss on the cheek. A few minutes later, Meizawa was busy hitting on Tomo at the stairwell, but this time she turned him down and professed her love for Sakuta, even though she didn't mention his name. The two met up after that and had a heartfelt conversation, with Sakuta promising to stay Tomo's friend no matter what. Just like clockwork, everything that had already happened before the loop happened again. But this time, he had a baddie for a girlfriend. He started telling Futaba all about his adventures, but he still couldn't figure out why he'd been dragged into all of this. Futaba suggested it was a quantum connection, which was just science talk for fate, and that all of this happened over them kicking each other's rice cakes. Later that day, Sakuta and Mai were walking home in the rain, after some grocery shopping when they found a girl in the rain, crouching over a cat in a box. Sakuta decided to take the cat back to his place, but the random girl wanted it instead. He suggested they trade contact info so he could give it to her later, but then realized she had the same name as his old crush, Shoko. That night, he dreamt of the first time he met Shoko on the beach, and how she gave him a random piece of trivia. When he eventually woke up, he found his sister cuddled up next to him in his bed, acting like a clingy girlfriend, and refusing to get out as usual. Later, while he was washing up, Sakuta thought back to the random girl he met in the rain and how she suspiciously had the same name as his first crush. As if that wasn't enough, she suddenly came over to his house to see the cat he had adopted, but unfortunately she couldn't recognize Sakuta at all. Sakuta had been taking care of the cat they found for the past 2 weeks because Shoko was afraid her parents would flush it down the toilet or something. Kaede couldn't bear to see Shoko in the house and thought she had come to steal her brother away from her. As usual, Sakuta called Futaba and laid out the situation for some guidance. They met up, and Futaba looked like she had been cloned and replaced by a total baddie. Despite this, he tried hard to focus on the point as he honestly wanted advice. He tried explaining the situation, but nothing sounded right when he said his first crush turned 12. Futaba told him to shrug it off though, and they both talked about going to a fireworks show with Kunimi. However, she eventually got tired of hearing him talk about her melons all day, so she dipped. At work, Sakuta and Kunimi were talking about their girlfriends and how Mai had been absent when Tomoa came in showing off her plot in a cute kimono. Later, while Sakuta tried to get into the working zone, his cute actress girlfriend, Mai, decided to visit him. After a brief convo, Mai realized she hadn't exactly been a perfect girlfriend and had been neglecting her new boyfriend because of work, but she promised to do something naughty for him later. After work, the couple were taking a walk and Mai asked if Shoko kept coming every day. Sakuta thought she felt threatened, but Mai assured him she didn't feel threatened by the midget. Sakuta wasn't interested in talking about kids though, and would rather be lovey-dovey with his girlfriend. But right when they were talking, they spotted Futaba acting shady and heading into an internet cafe. They trailed her and even called her, but when she spotted them, she bolted super fast. They immediately followed, and when they caught up to her, she explained how there had been 2 of her for about 3 days. As much as she hated to admit it, Futaba was experiencing puberty syndrome and couldn't do a thing about it. To help her, it was agreed that they would temporarily move into Sakuta's apartment, turning it into a low-budget cultured mansion. While Futaba was in the bath, Sakuta made himself comfortable by the door, and they talked about the doppelganger currently living Futaba's life. Sakuta was a little confused about how the whole thing happened. Then Futaba started going on about some scientific mumbo-jumbo in an attempt to explain the situation, but it low-key just flew over Sakuta's brain. As she kept explaining, he slowly started getting it, but at the end, they still didn't have any idea why there were 2 Futabas. Later that night, Mai came over to stare at Sakuta like a cute creep. He was still pretty worked up over Futaba though, and planned to go confront the fake at school the next day. He would prefer Mai to babysit the real Futaba instead of going on a date with her. Mai suggested that they were even for the neglect, but he said no and expressed that he would rather do something involving their lips. Mai told him he didn't need a reward as an excuse for that, and just as they were about to kiss, they ended up bumping heads. After that, Mai decided to leave for the night. The next morning, they were all chilling and eating breakfast when Shoko came in and was introduced to Futaba. At school, fake Futaba wasn't at her usual lab as she was watching Kunimi score 3-pointers like it was nothing. Sakuta joined her and asked why she had even fallen for Kunimi in the first place, and she told him a story about how he offered her a piece of chocolate, and she was instantly hooked. Futaba realized something was off though and asked Sakuta to spill, which was when he told her he knew about the whole double situation, and the other had the same theory for everything as her. Even though both girls probably knew the cause, no one was willing to spill the beans. Meanwhile, the girls at Sakuta's place were about to have coffee when Mai's manager called and started crashing out at the mention of a boyfriend. Meanwhile, at the same time, Kunimi came over to Sakuta and asked why Futaba looked so down in the dumps, but their conversation was cut short by Kunimi's basketball duties. Sakuta called home and told Mai about the situation right before she gave him the "we need to talk" line. Right after he got off the phone, Kamisato came out of nowhere like an annoying zit, asking what Futaba's deal was and why she had been posting Sue's content all over the internet on her secret account, and this left Sakuta visibly stunned. That evening, when Sakuta returned home, he found Futaba making dinner while wearing a lab coat but said nothing. When the food was ready, they all ate, and surprisingly, it was really good. Later that night, Sakuta went over to talk to Futaba while she was in the bath and filled her in on what her clone was doing. Futaba had created the account a while ago, but using it to post lewd content wasn't on her bingo card. Apparently, all she had were lewd things, even though she really hated her hot body. She confirmed that she just posted them for attention, like some clout-chasing wannabe. So the conflict between what she was doing and what she didn't want to do pretty much split her into two. Even now, the other Futaba was still posting thirst traps for everyone to see. Futaba the first wanted her clone to stop, so Sakuta decided that was his goal for tomorrow. After talking to Futaba, he ran into his girlfriend watching television, and they decided to air out exactly what she wanted to say to him earlier. Mai's agency had apparently tried to get her to low-key leave Sakuta, but she wasn't interested in leaving her boy toy for work. After hearing this, Sakuta suggested that they play along, and she agreed. The next day, fake Futaba and Sakuta boarded a train together, and he filled her in on how he had found out about her melons-only account. They got to talking, and apparently Futaba had been taking those pictures since early school as a way to clown on herself. She told Sakuta to give up on one of them, as it was the only option, and then dipped. When he went home later, he met the original Futaba, but even she wasn't sure that they would ever become one again. The next day at Futaba's lab, Kunimi came in looking like a goat about to meet his maker, and Sakuta had her fan him, while the other her enjoyed an electric fan at Sakuta's. And again, the next day came around, and the fake Futaba wondered how long Sakuta could keep this up. They kept talking until she checked her phone and realized someone had actually guessed her school from the uniform and even wanted to meet up. She started freaking out at the possibility of meeting someone like that, and was about to crash out till Sakuta stepped in. Futaba finally realized what she was doing was pretty dumb, so she begged Sakuta to just straight up delete the account. Sakuta took her home, and she started begging him to stay over for Netflix and chill, since she didn't feel safe and was alone at home. Later that night, she confessed that she was super scared of losing him and Kunimi because they were her only actual friends. They remembered the first day she spoke to Sakuta, when she confessed that she was quite scared Kunimi's girlfriend would run off with him when she arrived. She felt the same way about Sakuta, and to show her how good a friend she was to Kunimi, Sakuta used her phone to create a fake emergency that would bring Kunimi to the train station. Sakuta and Kunimi agreed to the plan, and when Futaba realized she wasn't as lonely as she had thought, she started to cry softly. After getting some drinks, the trio got some fireworks and started having a wholesome sparkler fight in the middle of nowhere. They kept lighting more and more fireworks, probably breaking one or two terrorism laws somewhere. And then, they shared more wholesome moments before planning to meet back there in a week to watch the Enoshima fireworks show. A little bit later, the sun had fully risen, and Kunimi was the first to dip. But just before Sakuta and fake Futaba split, she begged him to help her other self too. Sakuta got home and gave Futaba her phone before hitting the sack, but once he woke up, she was nowhere to be found, and had even left the phone at home. Sakuta got on his bike in the terrible weather, and after he put the pedal to the metal, he went all the way to Futaba's house, only to meet the other version of her. He then started pedaling even harder under the heavy rain until he got to school, and saw her while wheezing like an overworked warhorse. She seemed pretty confused to see him, but he acted like he didn't just pedal 100 miles to get there. Next, he invited her to watch the Enoshima Fireworks Festival with Kunimi, but she wasn't really interested. She said she wanted to completely disappear from the world since her other self was a much better version of her, so the solution was to disappear entirely. She started crying about how they probably wouldn't care as long as the other one existed, but Bro didn't even listen and told her to gear up for the festival whether she liked it or not. All of his poor life choices quickly caught up to him though, and the next thing he knew, Sakuta was waking up in a hospital bed with his super hot, older girlfriend standing over him. Sakuta met up with Futaba at the hospital lobby and had a heart-to-heart with her about how it wasn't bad to hate herself like that, which was the best pep talk he could muster. In the end, everything was resolved when Futaba called her other self, and after asking to go see the fireworks festival together, she literally vanished and became one with herself. The next week, the trio met up and enjoyed a wholesome festival together. Futaba supposedly confessed her feelings for Kunimi, and although she rejected herself, they still had a pretty wholesome fireworks festival. Sometime later, the second term began, but Mai had been gone so long that she was pretty much a myth by then. She also didn't show up for school that day, so Sakuta was all depressed. However, on his way home after school, he saw her casually chilling on the street. Excitedly, he ran up to talk to her, but she seemed to have lost her memory because she didn't know who he was. Thankfully, that wasn't the case because another Mai showed up and was revealed to be the real Mai. She explained that she had switched bodies with a random teenager, and at that point, Sakuta was just fed up. The three of them then went up to Mai Mai's luxury apartment, and apparently she even owned the place. The other girl Mai had switched with was Nodoka, and she was also a popular actress. According to Mai, she was her younger sister and had shown up out of the blue the night before. Nodoka, who had been crashing out silently, was more concerned about how calm Sakuta and Mai were, like it wasn't a regular Tuesday for them. Of course, now they both had to live each other's lives and started talking about how they would get it done. Although Mai was relatively free for a celebrity, Nodoka's schedule was packed with vocal and dance lessons for a concert at the end of the month. The next day, Sakuta got woken up by his cats, ready for a chaotic day. On his way out later, he met the sisters standing outside their building because he was supposed to help Nodoka get to school so she could pose as Mai. Both sisters were lonely at school because they had no friends, so it was easy to fake each other's identities. Right before leaving for school, Mai theorized that she might be the reason Nodoka came the day before, and that there might be some family drama with their mothers. Mai left, and after settling Nodoka down at school as usual, Sakuta went over to explain things to Futaba. Futaba instantly theorized that Nodoka had an inferiority complex, and her always striving to be like her sister might have come through in more ways than one. Her big idea to overcome it was for Nodoka to become just as big an idol. Later that day, Nodoka took a splash in the ocean, and as usual, Sakuta was gawking at her since her body was still technically Mai's. Sakuta asked why Nodoka struggled to be respectful around Mai, and she snapped back, saying it was because she was her senior in showbiz. He kept prodding and asking why she even came to her sister's place, or if she had anything negative to say to Mai. Nodoka got a bit angry, but it was no use since it was pretty obvious that she hated Mai a bit. Suddenly, Mai showed up out of nowhere, so Nodoka begged Sakuta to let her stay a bit longer with him, revealing that she got tired of being the Robin to Mai's Batman and always being in her shadow. Even now, she made it feel like Nodoka wasn't trying enough. Nodoka poured out all her feelings, and Mai let her know that the feeling of hatred was mutual. Later, Mai decided to stay a while with Sakuta rather than let Nodoka herself get her grubby mitts on her boyfriend. That night, Sakuta chilled in the bath and thought about the weird family dynamic he would have with Nodoka if he ended up getting married to Mai. He came out of the bathroom and went over to talk to Mai about the big fight she just had with her sister, and told her to be more upfront with her feelings. Time went by, and the two girls were both still living each other's lives to the T. A few days later, Nodoka was riding the train with Sakuta, still in her sister's body, and it seemed like there was still bad blood between them. Later at Sakuta's work, Mai showed up with Nodoka's phone, and her mom was going absolutely apeshit crazy, spamming her with texts about the dance routine. There was definitely still bad blood between them, and Mai didn't even want to pass on any advice. The next morning, Sakuta was taking a stroll pretty early when he saw Nodoka bumbling around with a camera crew at the station. Nodoka looked low-key nervous about the whole thing, and it looked pretty obvious. Then all of a sudden, she literally passed out. Later, Sakuta ran into Mai and explained that her sister couldn't even get through one take without passing out, so the shoot was postponed. They theorized that it must have happened only because of the pressure of being the popular Mai. The next day at school, Sakuta was busy wondering how it would be to have a perfect older sister, and Kunimi decided they would ask someone with one and called his annoying girlfriend Kamasato. After listening to Kamasato, Sakuta realized it was more than a love or hate relationship and met up with Mai later that day. Mai gave him a spare key to her place and then proceeded to threaten him into helping her talk to her sister. However, he warned him not to open a particular closet while he was there. While he was with Nodoka, he told her that Mai was sure she had gotten the thumbs up from the director and asked why she couldn't just smile naturally like she already did. He sent Nodoka to go freshen up while he made dinner, and while all that was happening. But then, a few minutes later, he went over to the closet he wasn't supposed to open and did the exact opposite. Inside was a thin golden box, which he opened, expecting a treasure trove, only to be disappointed and start groaning about how the two sisters couldn't just make up already. Later, he met up with Mai and Nodoka's body at his place, but she had a meeting early the next day and couldn't do any adult hanky-panky. So he went for the next best thing, and the next night decided to binge-watch Mai's movies with her sister. Once there, Nodoka couldn't hold her own against her scary movies and learned nothing about her sister. When he got home that night, he was met by Kaede, who had undergone some character development, and she started saying it was probably time she stopped acting like a school dropout and put more effort in. Mai came in with some snacks for Kaede and tickets for the concert that month, and told Sakuta to bring Nodoka to watch her slay. The next day, Nodoka cooked at the ad shoot, and finally felt like she wasn't an off-brand version of her sister. She met up with Sakuta later that day at the beach, but was a little salty since she needed 12 takes just for one shot. She started realizing that maybe being like her older sister was exactly what she wanted in the first place, and that she wasn't cut out for the idol life. Mai called them and interrupted their date to tell Sakuta that his father had unexpectedly called and said he would come to visit in about 2 days. Nodoka remembered meeting Mai for the first time and decided she might not be like her sister, but she would still be a great idol. They both took a stroll, and Sakuta told her about his current living situation, even though Mai had already given her the gist of things. Nodoka expected he would hate his parents, but Bro couldn't care less and still saw them as his parents. While they were talking, Nodoka's mom popped out of nowhere like an unwanted update and demanded that Mai give Nodoka back, as if Nodoka were a piece of property. A few days later, Sakuta met up with his father for drinks. and the two spent some time catching up on everything that had happened in each other's lives lately. After that, he went with Nodoka to watch her band perform. For a group of relatively small idols, they were doing surprisingly well, since their concert drew a huge crowd and even sold out the venue. The concert started, and Mai in Nodoka's body was perfectly in sync with the band, delivering an awesome performance and carrying the entire group like an S-tier pro. At some point, she ended up as the lead singer for their next single since she was that good. Meanwhile, Nodoka watched from the shadows, feeling like a useless disappointment sandwich, as her older sister was busy being a better her. After the performance, Sakuta and Nodoka went out to see the raging fans meeting the idols. However, Nodoka was still bummed out, and when she saw her mom with Mai, she swore her mom just wanted Mai cosplaying as her all the time. Nodoka then dragged Sakuta to the beach with her, and as soon as they arrived, she immediately booked it into the water in some crude attempt to meet her maker. Sakuta managed to intercept her before she could become fish food and told her that rage-quitting life wasn't the answer. He then pulled the wet Dumbo out of the water and back to Mai's house. There, he shoved open the box he had found earlier, and inside it were all the letters Nodoka had ever written to Mai since they were kids. The next moment, Mai came out of the shadows like Batman and explained that she was the only fan who truly gave her strength, and that her success as an idol was actually because of Nodoka's hard work and support, not just her own. Even then, Nodoka was still feeling down in the dumps, insisting she really was not all that and brushing off everything they had just seen like it was no big deal. But Mai stepped up beside her and made it clear that she was actually awesome in her own way. She reminded her that even their mom had been quietly rooting for her the whole time, even if it had always seemed like she only ever wanted Mai as her daughter. On hearing this, Nodoka fell to her knees, and Mai came up to her, and they made up. The sisters hugged, with Nodoka crying buckets and finally letting go, but they finally resolved their issues, and the two sisters popped back into their original bodies. As usual, Sakuta filled in Futaba like she was an unpaid therapist. She kept trying to explain everything with some science fiction mumbo-jumbo, telling Sakuta that they probably just switched appearances rather than bodies, and maybe Mai had envied her sister too. Days later, Mai kicked off a press conference exuding a boss girl aura. There, everyone wanted to know who the NPC she was dating was. Interviewers kept interrogating her like she robbed a bank, but she kept a cool head and told them straight up that she wouldn't be back in showbiz if not for him. She handled the cameras with more grace than a One Piece fanboy defending a filler arc, making it clear she wasn't letting anyone ruin her relationship. Later that day, Mai and Sakuta were walking back from school and the air felt romantic. Sakuta left Mai feeling pretty fly until he found a strange letter in his mailbox. He saw the letter was left by Shoko, telling him to meet her the next day, and he was honestly just confused. As usual, he met up with his unpaid therapist, Futaba, and asked for advice, but she wasn't interested in helping him cheat without being caught. Bro couldn't wrap his head around how he was suddenly going to meet up with his first crush out of the blue. Meanwhile, Futaba already snitched on him and tagged Mai to take over therapist duties. Mai then played the cool girlfriend card and even promised him a homemade dinner that night, but still refused to kiss his possibly cheating lips. Before he could leave school, he was intercepted by Kotomi Kano, a childhood friend of Kaede's from middle school, and Sakuta had to send in Mai to scope out his old fling. Kano then took Sakuta on an impromptu date and apologized for not stepping in to stop the bullies who turned his sister into a shut-in panda enthusiast. After helping Kano home, Sakuta found his cute girlfriend playing with sand at the beach. He decided it was probably too late to cheat, so he wrote a note to Shoko in the sand saying he had a girlfriend. Finally, he returned home to find that the panda suit-wearing dungeon dweller had actually started her own side quest. She had written out a checklist of life goals because she didn't want to be a useless burden anymore. But weirdly, everything she wrote involved being lovey-dovey with her older brother. Sakuta thought she wanted to go back to school and suggested she not overexert herself, take it slow, and probably go see some pandas while she was at it. While Sakuta was having dinner with his girlfriend and sister, he got a call from Mini Shoko out of nowhere. He asked if she had left a letter in his mailbox, but she said no, which only made the whole thing even more confusing and left him with way more questions than answers. After dinner, Kaede asked if she could answer the phone herself next time to become more independent, and since Sakuta felt she was finally ready, they decided to have a practice phone call with Mai to help her prepare. At first, Kaede's mock call went well until she went all limp like a noodle and fell to the ground. Overall, she was just glad she made the call and swore she'd get better. That night, Sakuta noticed a nasty purple bruise on her neck that looked like a curse from a ghost, and when he fell asleep, he had another dream about one of his past interactions with the original Shoko because his brain was randomly replaying old memories for no reason. He went to work as usual that day and had a pretty wholesome little interaction with Tomo before heading back home, where he found his little sister on the phone again, this time without passing out. When she handed it over, it turned out to be me. The two had a cute conversation for a bit before Kaede walked up to him and revealed she'd added going out to her recovery list. Fortunately, her grand master plan mostly involved taking a bunch of breaks, so she didn't instantly fold under the pressure. The next day, Kaede was completely geeked out trying to decide which cute outfit to wear after Mai had blessed her with a bunch of hand-me-downs. On the day of the mission, Kaede spent a good 5 minutes psyching herself up like she was going to war. Right when Sakuta got back home, she ambushed him and told him it was time for the grand mission. She docked onto his back, saying she was recharging her Oni-chan power. She was pretty scared, but more so of staying a shut-in for the rest of her life. Sakuta pulled a pro-gamer move by keeping her eyes closed as he led her toward the front door. He lied through his teeth about how far they were, tricking her into taking that final step into the sunlight before she even knew she had crossed the map border. After that day, Kaede spent more and more time outside, reaching new checkpoints each day. Everything was going fine, and the siblings even went out for a picnic together with Mai and Nodoka. But then Kaede's old friend, Kano, suddenly showed up to say hi. That was when a new problem became apparent. Sakuta puffed out his chest and told everyone that Kaede had completely lost her memories. It so happened that 2 years ago on one random morning, Sakuta woke Kaede up for breakfast, but she suddenly started crashing out, saying she didn't remember a thing. Sakuta and their parents took her to the hospital, but all they confirmed was that she had a dissociative disorder, and it was probably caused by stress. Back in the present, Sakuta was busy filling the rest of the squad in on how Kaede got cyberbullied so badly that her brain was clipped out of reality to protect her from all the trauma. After that, it was like he had a stranger for a sister. It got so bad that when Kaede got another bruise out of nowhere, their mom had a complete mental breakdown. It was during this time that he woke up with his 3-pronged chest scar. Unfortunately, no one at the hospital even believed his story because he sounded crazy, so it was ruled that he was probably into self-harm. While escaping his own hospital stay back then, he met the original older sister Baddie, Shoko. Unlike the doctors, she actually believed Sakuta, and she became his rock, even giving him some advice on finding his purpose in life. With this new mindset, he bought a diary for Kaede and tried to give her life some purpose as well. After that, Sakuta's father left the two to take care of their sick mother, leaving Sakuta to parent what was essentially his blank slate sister. The next day, after dropping his whole family lore the day before, Sakuta went over to check on Kaede and noticed that the bruises on her body were starting to reappear. Later that day, Mai told Sakuta she would be away for a while since she was going on another shoot. Sakuta got back to see Kaede stuck in her school uniform like a sea turtle in plastic bags. She insisted she was ready to go back to school, but he thought otherwise and suggested she take her time. Kaede asked about Kano, the girl who used to be her friend, and Sakuta explained she had known her since before kindergarten. She wanted to return a book she borrowed from Kaede a while back, and they found a letter in it asking to be friends again, but she fainted before she could even process an answer. Sakuta and his father went to the hospital, and it was suggested that her memories might have been affected even more. Fortunately, when she woke up, she was just fine. The next day, they ran more tests and discharged her, but there was still a chance the current Kaede could be lost forever. More than anything, Kaede wanted to go back to school. The next day, Sakuta met up with his dad and told him about Kaede's plan to return to school and how he wanted to help make sure it happened. He agreed to take her to school the next day, but also low-key wanted to meet Sakuta's girlfriend for some reason. The next day, Mai left, and Sakuta admitted he was a bit scared about what could happen to Kaede, but he had to stay strong for her sake. A school counselor came over to see Kaede and talk about her return to school. She was surprisingly nice, saying Kaede didn't even have to attend classes yet and could go straight to the infirmary if she wanted. The next day, Kaede took another step in her rehabilitation and almost went to school. Coming out, it felt like she was walking straight to her maker, almost running for the hills when she saw other girls going to school too. The next day, Kaede was even more determined, but she started getting bruises again just from being outside, as if she were outside the safe zone. Sakuta tried to take her back home, but she bolted because she owed him money. At the intersection, Kaede froze and started bawling her eyes out when she realized she couldn't take another step towards school. Sakuta decided to take her to a special place to rest and train harder so she could go to school. After a while, they ended up at the zoo. Kaede got geeked out and went to watch the pandas. They spent the whole day watching animals, and at the end, Sakuta got her a yearly pass so she could come anytime. The duo went home and Kaede slowly began to get better. Right before they went home, Sakuta tricked Kaede and they ended up outside of school and Kaede got excited. They low-key broke in and took a look around. Kaede got so happy that she became even more excited about coming to school during the day. While they went home, Kaede got super excited that she had almost marked everything on her list as done, but still wanted to conquer going to school during the day. The next day, though, something was wrong. Kaede couldn't remember anything they had done the previous day. In fact, she couldn't remember a lot of things, and that was when Sakuta realized that Kaede had lost her memories again. Mai was on her phone in the morning and decided to call Sakuta. For some reason, Sakuta had this strange aura about him and asked Mai if she could come while he took his sister to the hospital. However, this meant that they now had a new problem, because instead of a happy reunion, he realized the last 2 years of his life with his sister had been just save files. The whole time, Sakuta was pretty quiet. Even while his dad talked to his new sister, he couldn't care and just dipped. He sprinted out into the rain looking more pathetic than a wet dog in a sad movie. Just then, he crumbled to the ground not far away from the hospital, thinking about all the promises he and the old Kaede had made to themselves. Suddenly, his 3-pronged chest wound started bleeding again from the sheer emotional brain rot. Just when he was about to crash the entire server, Shoko appeared with an umbrella, looking like a guardian angel ready to rescue Sakuta. She then took him back home, cleaned him, and shoved him into a hot bathtub. That was basically the only workout his sausage sword was getting, especially since he was dazed and confused. While he was soaking away his depression, Shoko sat outside the bathroom, trying to comfort Sakuta. She started reading from the old Kaede's diary. Shoko reading the diary made it feel like Sakuta was reliving Kaede's life through her own eyes, and how she promised to be the best little sister he had. Every time Sakuta had a major event in his life, Kaede documented it as even her panda obsession began, when he bought her a panda DVD with his first paycheck. Every single one of their adventures, from when Mai first came over to visit, to when Futaba came over and stayed for a few days. The day Nodoka swapped bodies with Mai and Mai stayed over in her sister's body, she wrote it down. Then she realized that Sakuta regretted not being able to help Kaede when she was being bullied, and she knew that if she ever vanished into thin air, he would regret it too. That was why she made a goal of side quests she wanted to do with Sakuta before she ever disappeared, so that if she ever did, she could leave knowing he had no unfinished regrets. Overall, she would be glad if he could remember her with a smile when she was gone. It turned out the panda suit enthusiast knew her days were numbered and had planned for Sakuta after her own deletion. She left behind letters to comfort him, and she was happy to be his temporary little sister. Hearing his sister's final words through his first crush, Sakuta finally broke his dead-eyed rascal exterior, letting him cry out all the emotional damage he had been holding in. The following morning, Sakuta woke up to find that his mysterious first crush, Shoko, had vanished into thin air, and all she left behind was a parting note. Sakuta bummed around the house for a bit before going to check his voicemail. He then called Mai and started telling her about how Kaede had forgotten everything about the last 2 years. He tried to stay strong over the phone, but Mai could sense that he was completely broken inside. Later that day, Sakuta went over to visit his sister at the hospital, and they both agreed to see pandas together once she was discharged. Later, Sakuta went over to Futaba, his unpaid therapist, and filled her in on what was going on, as usual. This time, they tried to figure out who or what Makinohara Shoko actually was. Maybe she never existed in the first place, and was just a figment of Sakuta's imagination. Later, when Mai came over to visit Sakuta, she accidentally found the parting letter left by Shoko. Mai, understandably, was crushed and left. The next day, while Sakuta was at work, he was numb as a rock and almost hurt himself. After work, he tried going home but was intercepted by Mai's little sister. She told him he was an idiot, that his girlfriend had literally taken time off work on her birthday, and that he had been acting like a fool. He manned up and started biking towards Mai's shot like he was on an extreme course. Once he got to the shoot, they were already packing, but he still managed to bump into Mai. After getting picked up by her crew, he started by wishing her a happy birthday. The couple took a detour and spent some time alone talking. After finding a nice romantic spot with a view and talking for a bit, Sakuta apologized and Mai confessed she wasn't the one who got to cheer him up. She then apologized for not being there for him. After sharing a wholesome moment, Mai told Sakuta to close his eyes, and instead of kissing him, she gave him a pinch on the cheek to remind him who the boss was. They shared another quiet moment and ended the night on a bittersweet note. Do you think Sakuta would find out who Shoko really is? If you got this far, comment simp. Also, check out this next video.